In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The beginning is described to us as a void without shape or form. In this dimension of experience, the best way that we can personify said void is with water. In the midst of this void was a superior intelligence and maturity. This superior intelligence and maturity uttered words made manifest. The words were, "Let there be light." And there was light. Soon there were other words and other manifestations. One of them being the earth to separate the waters. And because we share all of the elements of the earth, we too can call ourselves earth. Greetings and welcome to another step in the journey, another brick added to the temple. This is the build. Happy New Year to all. I will bring Brother Eli in as he will begin with our opening announcements, and then we will proceed.
Blessings, everyone. Hope my mic is clear. The words we are expressing freely are not meant to offend anyone. Our words are not meant to compete with anyone else's wisdom, because your wisdom and understanding is yours alone. We are choosing to remain consecrated while being in a furnace of affliction, the burning bush. Conquering ignorance is essential. Nobody is born wise. A person has to make serious efforts to develop and achieve the qualities that is needed to speak and achieve Mayat without falling into the twin traps of vanity and greed. Every day, the ears or the living have to be made to listen to words of wisdom. If the teachings is properly understood, then righteousness will become a reality. Just acts conforming to the precepts of Mayat are born out of this understanding. A deed done without egotism is a useful, shining example to others, providing it obeys the golden rule to act for he who acts. And in the ancient Kemetic book of Two Ways, it says, people are people are capable of great good and great evil. And the causes, well, of course, in the Kemetic book of Two Ways, it says the causes of wrongdoing are ignorance and immaturity. Blessings, brother.
Today is indeed a very special day, much like all of the others for us. But for some, this particular day, January 1, is the beginning of the rest of most people in their journey towards resolution, a call to action to change something that has been in the previous year proven to need improvement. However, I found myself falling upon many curiosities within the last 24 hours, one of which being the year according to many different calendars across the world. And then came forth the question, what year is it? I was led to research this and have found that there is a chart that has existed of the year 2022 as of February of 2022, showing all of the years according to the many different calendars of the world. If you were to go to statista.com/statistics/103435/current dash year dash various dash calendars, you will have met me on a page that features the answer to the question that I proposed, the current year according to various historical and world calendars as of February 2022. Being that it is January 2023, we will add a year to said calendars as an update to the research that has been found. However, I will share with you all of the different calendars that exists and the year that they say they are in according to that culture and region. You shall find this very interesting. Of course, the Gregorian calendar is the one that most are familiar with. It is the one that is the most social in regards to this country and the commerce alongside others. This calendar says that we are in the year 2023. However, in Ethiopia, their calendar is a full 8 years behind ours. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, according to today, it is thought to be the year 2015. It gets better. The Hindu calendar says it is the year 1943. The Islamic calendar says it is the year 1443. The Iranian calendar, 1401. The French Revolutionary calendar, which is almost completely obsolete, is 230. Year 230. This is marking after the French Revolution. 231 years. So that is going into the past in the same realm of this perimeter of this planet. However, it gets even deeper because on the other side of the Gregorian calendar shows a future. The Buddhist calendar says that they are in the year 2563. the Julian calendar 2776, the Chinese calendar 4721, the Hebrew calendar 5782, and the Assyrian calendar is in the year 6771. Why am I displaying this audibly? Because the idea of time is a concept. The idea of past, present, and future are concepts. These are social constructs when placed in the physical form. And based upon the relativity of the environment and culture, it is agreed upon the same accord. Unless, however, you are a traveler, who, of which we have learned we all are, at 60,000 miles every 40 plus seconds across the earth. That said, we should have full knowledge of all of the times, both past, present, and seemingly the future, as it is depicted upon the world cycle. These are all based upon relevance to certain events, whether it is the French Revolution or the coming and death of Christ. But with the knowledge of past, present, and future, the common denominator is that all of them exist in the now. It is the only time that can be told without having any fault, without needing a clock, a watch, a sundial, or any of the like. So long as you say the time is now, it is a correct answer. My question then is, if the time is always now, why is it important for human beings in certain cultures to declare January 1, this day of resolve, this day of a great goal that most would not even achieve? Why is it so much pressure placed upon this one day that is in the middle of a winter, which, dare I even say it, should not even be declared the beginning of the year, only for it to one day pose within same said year as a disappointment to the self, when in all actuality, if every day is now, then we can always start now without need of a resolution. These are some of the thoughts I've had over the last 24 hours, of which I hope that I and Brother Eli will ponder regarding the process of elimination as one of the resolutions for change. What we choose to eliminate, how we choose to pack light in this journey, and what we choose to hold close to. Given the subtle visual cues, it seems that Brother Eli is in a certain amount of study and is contemplating how he'd like to answer. In that, I will grant him my patience.
Blessings, brother. One thing I did notice when I watched the videos of us, I don't understand, but it looks like I'm looking at the screen. Like I'm looking at the screen now, but like when I'm doing all this stuff, when I'm reading around, I'm like my attention. It's like, wait a minute. I know people think I'm actually looking at the screen, um, but no. This is the only thing I want to put because you was doing an amazing job, and I want I hope and pray you continue. Something popped in my head, and I mean, it never came to mind. But think about this. Now we count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. Why did they choose to count down in BCE? Like who says, well, we're going to choose 30,000 years to count down from? You see what I'm saying?
Mm.
That's the weird thing, like, because it just literally when you speaking, it popped in my head. Why the countdown? Like
Hmm.
they say ancient Egyptians were 3,000 years, but you count down to zero. And then if you count down another 2,000, that equals 5,000 years.
Yes.
But who gave the authority to count down in the first place? And why did they choose a specific point, 30,000 years? Why not further?
Mm.
Because, time, like another example, is about the corpse plant. The corpse plant bloom every 9 years. So there are certain things only perform certain functions at a specific point in time when the earth is at a proper axis to the sun, and the sun is in its proper axis according to our Milky Way galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a connection. So, but again, brother, that just popped in my head. So, like I said, but when I'm looking and doing that kind of stuff, that means I'm looking at something while we're growing, we building. But brother,
Yes.
I have never thought about that because sin is missing the mark. When you miss the mark, that's considered sin. But brother, who chose to say we're going to decide to have humans to count the years down? Because they had to get to 30,000 years from some point.
Yes.
Why not 30,001? Why not 30? Why 30 into 20,000 years? They count down. They started BCE. So something, brother, is you didn't climb on something. I know I'm not qualified to really understand because again, we know even gestation, everything is a matter of time.
Yes.
Time is serious when it comes to the ability to control and alter the physical world. Like we cannot make it to Mars according to our modern technology only when Mars is closest to the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So you have
Mm-hmm.
to know the time. Otherwise, you will do the hata or hata, Hata, Hebrew mean miss the mark, meaning sin. But that's what I'm looking at, brother. I'm really looking at why they chose 30 to 20,000 years BCE to count down, and then the supposed Christ we start over again to count up. What is this, like this breathing apparatus we seem like we doing? It's like a wave up
Mm-hmm.
down. But why they go to 30,000? Not why not 40,000? Why
Right.
not 50,000? Why not, you see what I'm saying? But
Right.
why? So yes, time and is very important when it comes to the physical world.
Yes.
Like now,
So
bro, look, you see how I'm looking? It look like I'm looking at the camera, but I'm actually looking at something else. So forgive me when y'all watch these videos if it look like I'm looking at the camera or something like that. But I'm definitely not looking at the camera. And then these
mm,
lights be blinding me, so I really don't see what's going on. My crazy
mm.
looking glasses, though. Thank you, brother.
No, you're absolutely, absolutely. Um, it goes back to metaphysics speaking of the world being infinitely large and infinitely small. It's all a matter of perspective. Now, what I'm about to say is based upon many different theories, not necessarily fact, not necessarily belief, but certain theories that have been tested and have seen themselves to be sought out as true, depending upon the situation. Take, if you will, drawing a circle on a piece of paper, a sphere, a spheric image on a piece of paper. If one was to ask another, how many circles did you draw? One might say one circle and might even say it with a smirk or even a smidgen of sarcasm, as you just had asked the person to draw a single circle. However, the tip of the pen is indeed cyclical. Upon placing a single dot on the paper, you have just drawn a circle. So then, how many circles have you actually drawn? One would have to count in close proximity with maybe even the strongest microscope, the amount of dots it took to connect them in a line that made said circle to count how many circles were made. Infinitely large, infinitely small. Now, that said, there are many different cycles. There are moon cycles, lunar cycles, there are solar cycles, cycles of the weather, of which have been led to many a debate as to when the year ends and when it begins. For example, Hebrews believe that it is indeed the spring that starts the year and not the dead of winter. Then the idea of a year based upon a 365 day, which was voted upon because there was a time when politics was very, very adamant about certain things within the culture, informing a sense of control in regards to enterprise and intellect. These were all voted upon. The Gregorian calendar, the civic calendar, and the Coptic calendar, all of them were voted upon based upon different religious beliefs and the culture of the time. Interesting, that word comes back again. The culture of the time. Science has had many inventions of intervention, one of them being able to measure a tree by how many circles in cycles the bark would show when it was cut. For each 365-day period that a tree exists, a ring goes around its main center point. That is the way that they could find that sequoia trees were up to 1,000 years old. One would simply cut the bark or find the stump and count the rings. The theory is that the same thing has happened in regards to world events, and that the counting down was merely voted upon after a certain time that something was being counted up based upon findings in historical and ancient relics of which they could date by time. Again, this is the idea of prehistory, before history was beginning to be written and agreed upon. And certain cultures would desire to go deeper in that prehistory because of what the culture defined their history to be. For example, the smallest calendar ever is the French Revolutionary calendar. The French Revolutionary calendar of the French only cared about the French Revolution itself. which happened 231 years prior. When you look at those who counted of much further in what we would believe is the future, it was not the future at all. It is just including a past that was much deeper than a war that was won, which involved religion. The deeper question still is, how many other calendars are there of which we do not have a definite answer? For there are more that are added to said table time and time again. Also, there are cultures who do not have a calendar at all. They go of every day being a single day. That every season is its own season. And they do not deem it a need, a necessity to count far into the past or to contemplate much into the future, for they are, again, living in the now. There has yet, there I have yet to find in any Aboriginal culture that has been documented in any sort, one that has been asked or has ever answered what year it was. Now, this is something that I could be corrected on, and I welcome that. But at the present time, there has not been a recording of an Aboriginal culture answering with diction what year it was. They are living in the now. They do not deal with certain cultural debates or even religious ones. They are in the present day. And how funny is it that we have the rich, the so called famous, the viral, going to the lengths of trying to find joy, to seek out and find joy. And in so doing, come across gurus and many other ancient cultures that tell them to live in the now. Resolutions that are not resolved are still problems. How many human beings have we found to have every year the same cyclic habit of creating a revolution in their mind, making a resolution and a goal of which they would not achieve year after year after year? A problem that still persists due to what? To lack of discipline, lack of motivation or camaraderie, or to the difficulties that were not contemplated on before said call to action was brought forth in the manifestation of their mouth. What does that mean? Well, by definition, it is a level of insanity. For the definition of insanity is, as a matter of fact, I will give you the correct one. I want to do that. The definition of insanity, the state of being seriously mentally ill or madness, extreme foolishness or irrationality. unsoundness of mind, or lack of the ability to understand that prevents one from having the mental capacity required by law to enter into a particular relationship, status, or transaction, or that releases from one criminal or civil responsibility. Much deeper than just saying, repeating the same actions, hoping for different results. Dare I say it, insanity itself, by its many definitions, is a repeated sin, especially when it comes to the concept of resolutions that are not ever resolved. So, why does the human race drive itself crazy? It is because it is celebrated in the culture. If this was looked down upon, truly bullied on, soon, very soon, they would have rallies against this just like anything else that has been bullied within a human culture. There'd be rebellion of some sort. There'd be a separation of at least two opposing forces. We would have insanity shaming, just like we have with fat shaming or the gender bendings of the many different shades of gray within the spectrum of rainbow of mental and emotional stabilities. But ultimately what would happen is much more of the people who enjoy the ritual of this insanity would have celebrations for them that were much greater. And those who actually have a call to action and bring it to fruition would have more celebrations in their own sectors. The irony is, those who have said call to action of their own deem without need of motivation from any outside source, without need of any discipline other than the ones that they have crafted themselves over time. They see this as its own reward and therefore need no reward. So then, which one are we, these builders? Are we those who dare mighty things and achieve them no matter how long it takes with the discipline that we have built upon for ourselves? Or are we just running around in circles? Brother Eli and I talk much about rewards, what is due. And one of the things that is quite unfortunate is the road that has been chosen, that we have chosen to help people and not be selfish, not in the derogatory way, but to think in a centering of the self towards the seeking of intellect and the surrounding of more intellectuals could have achieved much greater in our lifetimes that would have progressed us as individuals versus helping people, which has brought us to a cyclic nature. There was a photo that was posted, I believe it was of a telescope or a spacecraft of some sort preparing for liftoff. And there was a comment placed underneath that I would be here had I not followed the path of helping people. I stared upon that photo and that comment for 10 minutes, the longest 10 minutes of my entire life, contemplating the amount of resolve that has not been met year after year after year after year of helping people versus seeking for the light within itself to develop and expand and progress. And I was fought with two opposing forces, two cultures in my mind. One of them being of empathy, of saying that even if this particular individual reached beyond any break and held on for sake of someone else to crawl upon his shoulders and arms to make it to the other side, then it was worth it. And yet another part of me that is slightly more intellectual and slightly less emotional and more objective says, had this particular individual been given another chance, would strongly encourage lack of empathy and more of self-care and self-intellectuality. But then the rebuttal came. The rebuttal came in a sense of many questions, one of which being, who but us, fellow builders, knows the names of every astronaut that has ever ventured onto the moon? Could this even be made in a daily conversation? The household names of intellectuals who seek for more understanding of the world around them and even galaxies beyond. Do they exist in daily conversation? Or was their time wasted upon other generations who care not? The other question, how many people did said human being in this predicament save, even at the loss of his own life? How many are still alive because of said person? Which brings us to a common scenario involving a railroad track, a single person on the rail, and a train. Trains that could, if it is to stay upon schedule, could run over the man on the rails. Or, if stopped, could slow down that time to save the man, but cause severe disruption of schedule for the others, which one being the greater sacrifice. Religion has a lot of fun with this one. We have many sacrificial lamb for said example. That surely it is the easiest question to answer, to have one risk one life for many others, whether or not the others deem this one life significant. But the other side of that coin toss exists. What if you know the man on the railroad track? What if you know and love the man on the railroad track? What if you know for a fact that those who are in the car, in this train that is on this railroad, regardless of the man on the railroad track's actions to make sure everything goes upon his schedule, will not ever be remembered? This is the only primordial battle that exists in regards to sacrifice, that exists in regards to said resolutions that are not resolved. Unfortunately, it all depends upon who we are speaking of. So, for those who are watching, I want you to place yourself in two different perspectives. As the man on the tracks, sacrificing his life or her life for others, whether they know it or not. And for those sitting comfortably in the car who would only but notice a slight bump in the road upon running over said man, being satisfied and fitting the schedule despite any casualties being made for sake of it. I speak of this as an observer, not as one who would place judgment upon either decision. But essentially, it is up to you to decide. I will say this, though. And according to my recollection, other builders have been the men on these railroad tracks who have had these sacrifices, all with varying levels of emotion and even emotionlessness for humanity due to these actions that have not been met with certain reward. But I can only speak for myself when I say the sacrifices that I have made, the lives that I have saved, are only worth it in my mind. And fortunately, because being a traveler, I know that to be enough. I may not journey past the earth in which I circle around every 45 seconds, twice to be exact. I may not know how much a star's heat casts from one distance of one part of the galaxy to the other, except by reading it in books. I may not see the world from a third person bird's eye view, except in photographs and microscopes and telescopes and cameras and Cassini footage. But what I do know is, As that vessel, I am meant to be open for the flowing of this instantaneous extrication of my life and for the sake of others. And if only one remembers me, then it was worth it. I have said so much. To say too much would mean that it was not handleable, manageable by another human being. So I dare not say too much. But I've said so much. Brother Eli, if you would.
When you look at time, it's Time, or if you take away the T, is I and me. When we look at time, the importance of time, one of my examples, my own personal life, I remember I would get the walking pneumonia around the same time every year. I was happy that I observed that something on the inside, observed that helped me to be prepared the following year after going through it for 3 years. The importance of time is I need to say is extremely important for some of us who would like to get some things done. They always tell us to do certain things at the right time. Otherwise, some forces in existence will not allow it to happen. We are enjoying electric cars in 2023, when in fact, the first electric vehicle was invented by Robert Anderson in around 1832. So if you look at 1832 and we're in the year 2023, that right there, because also I remember, I think it was Saturn, they had electric vehicles on the roads and they had to recall them all because it was not the time. Now everybody is bending backwards over something that's been in existence for, at least in America, about 191 years. When we talk about sin, means miss the mark. When you sin, you missing the mark. So I'm going to read a little bit about a man, Elijah's concept of time, about the great ones who write history in the future or from the past. It says that the Holy Quran tells that Allah, God, is one. Moses said the same thing. The Lord, your God, is one. Jesus never taught you about a Trinity. He never taught you God the Father, God the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and all three are equal. Jesus said he was sent. He could wait a minute. How could one who was sent be greater than the sender? When the disciples called Jesus good master, he said, why calleth thou me good? There is no one good but the Father. When he was on the cross, his words were, my God, why have you forsaken me? Jesus knew he wasn't the power. The power was in the hand of God. So when you pray to Jesus and not to the one who sent him, you short circuit the power of your prayer because you are being disobedient to Jesus in doing that. If you really want to gain the power of your religion, pray to the Father in Jesus' name. And whenever you ask, it will be granted to you. Moses said that God is one, but you said God is three. If you divide three into one, you don't have one anything. You have a fraction of one part is one third. The second part is one third. The third part is one third. You have to add all of these fractions together to get one. It is against the law of mathematics to divide three into one and get one. The book Quran talks about Allah God, but is some parts indeed, and saying I, it says we. We have one God, but the book that gives us the best part and clearest knowledge of God start using pronouns that suggest more than one. So the next question is, we who? And we adorn the lower heavens with stars. We did this. Then it says, and we gave to man his hue and his colors. The book of Revelation in the Bible talks about 24 elders who are sitting around a throne, and a 25th person is sitting on the throne with a book in his hands. And the 24 were weeping and wailing because no one could take the book. But a man who is described as a lamb that looked like it was slain from the foundation of the world walked up to the one on the throne, and he did not ask for the book. He took the book. In the book Message to the Black Man in America, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the Holy Quran and Bible are made according to the circumference of our planet. A year for every mile. The circumference of our earth is 24,896 miles, approximately 25,000 miles. We do not write history after it is done. The original man writes history, then walk into it. All you historians wait for the event to happen. Then you write what happened. But what would you call somebody who could listen to you think and then multiply your thinking by your actions that comes from your thinking, and then cast that mathematical knowledge to the wheel of time and write what will be done for 25,000 years in advance of it happening? Nothing is new under the sun. We just repeat because we're ignorant. Let me finish on. When you read the book, you are reading something that was written or revealed about something that will happen long before it actually occurred. This book, Quran, is full of prophecies of things that will happen. Many of them are already happening. The Bible and Quran are scriptures of things that were to happen. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said there are 24 of our scientists, black men, that the Holy Quran called the exalted assembly. One of these scientists acts as the judge or God for the others. And the 23 actually do the work of writing the future of the nation. And all of it is put into one book. It is called the mother of books. It is a history written in advance to last for 25,000 years. Whenever there is a portion of it that is to be fulfilled, one of the 12 major scientists reveals that portion to one among the people, and that person is called a prophet or a messenger. Think about that. They write history in advance. When you buy a product, a car, now this is me speaking other than what I was reading. When you buy a product or anything, they have tested the product before they presented it to you. For instance, how many times you can push this button on the cell phone or turn a knob before it breaks, or how much pressure will it take for the frame of a vehicle to crack. So time, knowing an event before it is presented, is the only authority or the only way to be allowed to be used amongst the populace. Let's use this as people that create worlds. Because according to the basic understanding of Christians, the Magi and those who study time and history, they saw a star, meaning that Christ or Moses, one who's supposed to change the time of that particular area, was to be born. But the ruler of that environment that was supposed to be changed did not have the knowledge. So when he discovered the change, he had every first child in the particular time period to be murdered because he wanted to prevent the change. Not knowing this change was written 25,000 years before this ruler was even born. So those two were moved around, or we were perceived as being protected because Moses and Christ lived, and change happened despite the will of the one who was ruling that environment. His will was fraudulent. It was something more superior. And that's why I don't claim anything. I am nothing. So back to the book. I'll read it again. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said there are 24 of our scientists, black men, that the Holy Quran calls the exalted assembly. One of these scientists acts as a judge or God for the others. And 23 actually do the work of writing the future of the nation, and all of it put into one book. It is called the mother of books. It is a history written in advance to last for 25,000 years. Whenever there is a portion of it that need to be fulfilled, one of the 12 major scientists revealed that portion to one from among the people, and that person is called a prophet. Now back to my conjecture. A prophet is someone that gives a message that is not relevant to those who exist in that time period. Case in point, Noah. Noah was talking about rain in an environment that it never rained as far as we know it. So let's look at the body. Let's use it in practical reality. You don't know that you're sick. You don't have a clue. That is not a part of your knowledge. You're just ill. You walking around just doing whatever you do. But then you start feeling warm. Your body start heating up. The white blood cells are active. See, you have no knowledge of this at all. That means you have nothing to be a part. You're just a machine in a machine. So something alarms the white blood cell to tell the white blood cells that something is wrong. Think about that. Something in the consciousness alerts the white blood cell to say, boom, go and act. Just like a prophet. A prophet is born to announce a change coming. Please be prepared. So, despite what you believe and what religion that you practice, change is going to come. And that's why the people pray more, do certain things, or the story when the death angel came and they was told to put the blood on the door so the death angel can go around. And some conspiracy theorist says the Jews knew about September 11th because, ironically, no Jewish person showed up to work that day when the Twin Towers fell. Or, I mean, there's so many examples I can use, but looking at the immune system or the body responding to an invader is not judging it, is only responding to its creation. It was created for a specific job. So when the prophet comes or the immune system is either to protect or get you prepared, because when you are sick, your energy go down, your body heats up. You have a physical reaction warning you something is wrong. Stop. Whatever you're doing, stop it. It's not working. Otherwise, you must die. So when you look at prophets, they talking like Sodom and Gomorrah. So they're doing something that's causing a corrosion. They're doing something that will hurt something that's greater than themselves, because cells in the body don't know that Brother Elias have to go to work to support his family. And if you don't work because you're sick, you see what I'm saying? So the cells, the white blood cells, have to do what it's supposed to do because they don't have a knowledge of what the greater being that they're dwelling in need to do in a greater environment. We exist because everything else exists. So time is serious. Like the first electric car was created in 1832. So no matter how much he prayed, no matter all this stuff that his his present consciousness can conjure up, doesn't have anything to do with the time that planet, that tilt, that spin, or that coordinates of the universe was lined up to. His little earthly self couldn't do anything about it. So knowing the time is extreme. This is something because we are in real time. So when brother spoke about the subject, it just opened up something, because in my last 50 or whatever after 50, I got to get my attention to something else. And this is something to me that is extremely serious, to be well acquainted enough with time we live in. Because like I said, I was getting walking pneumonia around the same time of the year. So let me continue on. Whenever the part of the great book is to be fulfilled, one from among the 12 will reveal that scripture to one from among the people. So what you have in the Bible or Quran are scripture. Scripture means a part of the writing. It is a script of writing from something original or from the great book. You only have 6,000 years of history in these books, Bible and Quran. And both books tell you that there is another thing coming. The Bible only takes you up to the time when the Lamb and the righteous are on a distant shore signing or singing a new song. It doesn't tell you what the song was. It does not admit you into the hereafter. The Bible stops at the destruction of the power of this world. The Quran does the same. The Quran does not admit you into the hereafter. The Holy Quran in the Bible says, eye had not seen, ear has not heard, nor has it entered the heart of man to conceive what lies beyond this world. That means another book has to come that completes the next 10,000 years of history in this 25,000 cycle. So back to a real world experience. When you drive a vehicle, they said it is best to change your oil every such and such because they did the thing, the laws of cause and effect. If you become the master of the laws of cause and effect, then you become God. So it's important to know time, which I never knew to this extent until literally just now in my 50th year cycle. And I've been hearing about this. We all been hearing about this time concept. Okay. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said the number 24 scientists is in accordance with the hours of our day and the measurement of the circumference of our planet around the equator in the region of our poles, Arctic and Antarctic oceans. Our planet is not exactly 25,000 miles in circumference. It is 24,896 miles. Our time is not 24 hours. It is 24 hours, 56 minutes, and 46 seconds. The change made in our planet's rotation at the poles is about 1 minute per year, and it takes 25,000 years to bring a complete change in the region of poles. The poles actually incline 23.5 degrees to the planet of its orbit. So the original Black nation used 23 scientists to write the future of the nation for the next 25,000 years. And the 24th is the judge of the one God. This is heavy stuff. Elijah Muhammad said that Allah taught him that one time we made history to last for 35,000 years. When the earth and the moon were one planet, but one of our scientists wanted the people to speak one language and became disappointed that he could not get them to speak one dialect or the same language. So he decided to destroy the earth and those who lived on it. The Elijah Muhammad said Allah, God, taught him that they drilled a hole in the earth and filled it with a type of explosion. All right, I'm not going to go too far because we're dealing with time. So let me go down a little bit further. The lessons that Farad Muhammad gave the Elijah Muhammad talk about the cracked atom. It read it 40 or so years ago. Became a Muslim, going to conjecture. It says he told us these 3 days, foot keep. Okay, so it says the Bible tells you that those live 500 for some years. The California redwood trees live 1,000 years. There are turtles that live 300 and 400 years. Hardly make it. So he talked going to the human. So if we think about that, if we think about time and the importance of time, because everything that exists, according to our understanding, um, is important, because we have to ask the question, where did this thought come from in its first place? Because they said when Nikola Tesla was doing something in America, it was another scientist practically doing the same thing. So something that we don't have a clue the origins of makes us respond in a certain way, because we are on the same earth, yet we have computers and cell phones and microphones. And when we read our history books or look at older movies, which we were alive at the time, certain technology we have today did not exist. Even though we on the same earth, we might be in the same neighborhood, the same minerals in the ground, all these things were in place. But for some reason, now we're allowed to invent them. So I think the greatest knowledge of all knowledge at this point is to get into the mind of God. Because when you study mathematics, or when you pay attention to common sense, they had to break the pipes before they told you that please have your faucets dripping because it may freeze. To and please forgive my energy because I'm being riled up now in my spirit. When they had the blood on the door, or when you look at animals, how they know when an earthquake is about to happen before it happens, or a storm, or the birds know how to fly south, their life are saved. It's like they receive a mercy compared to those who are ignorant. Think about that. The importance of the knowledge of the time we exist in. Because despite your prayers, your fasting to God, all this stuff we give the glory to of something happening in our lives basically have nothing to do with it. It's the circumstance of your environment. Because look at, like, I can be a bully, right? Not me personally, but the story I'm about to, because I speak the same stories because they're are relevant about the only knowledge that we need to have is the time that we live. If you know what's going to happen, you can win the lottery. You can be protected by storm. It's benefits because it was already known. The prophets, prophecy, all this stuff. When the lottery, like when the fall of the economy, all this stuff. The great ones. Oh, what's next? Because they say billionaires go after soothsayers or those who predict time. They have these seances in their homes, like what's going to happen. So those who are smart would try to only gain the knowledge of time. And that's why mathematics can predict, or and that's why we have statistics, to say if we keep going, this is going to fall. You see what I'm saying? So only the fools will study other things other than the time, agriculture, when you supposed to plant. Man, this is heavy, brother. Okay. So let me get back to what I was talking about. So the immune system is responding. Or let's think about a sexual act. If you have two young people are in love and they might be 10 to 12 years old, so they having some type of intercourse. Now they can do whatever they want, having sexual intercourse, and there is no response with nature. Go ahead, have sex all day. But when they're in the ages of 13 to 15, then some things in their body will create this thing that's called a child. So even look at the corpus plant. It grows every 9 years. So the time of things are important. And if you're not in accordance with the time, then you will suffer, period. In hawk signal win case. With this sign, I will conquer, said Constantine. When you look at Prophet Muhammad, it was a certain time that he came up in order to beat the Quraysh, and they won the war. So all these events, look at Elon Musk. How is it possible that Elon Musk went against Saudi Arabia, oil, these big dealerships that have been in existence for over 100 years, all this power could not stop Elon Musk and the electric car? So it's not about the person, the religion, or the organization, or the powers that be. It's when the time of something that have to come into existence. One man changed the whole planet with a man who suffered with his name. He came in the name of Jesus. Nikola Tesla, who the one who suffered because he died broke from businessmen. Now businessmen have to die broke with their inventions from the name Tesla. And he shot the Tesla car into outer space. Woo! The same businessman, because JP Morgan, who took Elon Tesla, the living being, his inventions, had to, his ships were busted for selling, having big amounts of drugs on there. Just think about it. There is a spiritual war between the two. The JP Morgan human being gave Nikola Tesla the cash money to work on his inventions. Nikola Tesla died broke, struggling. JP Morgan died fat and wealthy. Now the CEOs of JP Morgan have to suffer from the person who used the name Tesla. Oh man, boy. Now that name is embedded in JP Morgan, and his boys of oil and business had to bow down to the name of Tesla because all the inventions, Apple and all that kind of stuff. Oh man. Whoa. And that just came into my head. So I'm saying what I'm seeing literally all at the same time. All right, let me come down back from that. So the study of history, because if you don't know history, what they say, we're doomed to repeat it. Cycles. So only a fool will not study or pay attention to cycles. And like myself personally, I used to get walking pneumonia. And I think I didn't have health insurance to get the pills to take, the pneumonia, walking pneumonia pills to help myself. So I was a fool existing in a time period of knowledge. So the greatest knowledge is to get into the mind of God, which has been already put down, because you can see the patterns of things. Winter, spring, summer, fall. Hey, it's time to start fasting. It's time to, our grandmothers gave us black stuff to start pooping, clean your guts out before the winter season. So your immune system, see, they didn't know, but we know today when you get all that dookie out your intestines, your immune system builds up to get prepared for the winter season. Because most people, I'm gonna have to share this with you, you don't get a cold because of the cold weather. I don't know why people think because of the cold weather, the common cold exists, because you have people getting common colds in the summer as well. So time, and then the books, they teach us the patterns. Will Smith said this: the importance of running and reading. He said, reading, the reason why you should read is because if you have an issue in life, if you read it, someone had that same issue, figured out the solution, and then wrote it down and published it in the book. Running, the importance of running is, he said, when you run, Sometimes you feel tired, but if you keep going, you notice that you can run further. That's a short version of it. It's on YouTube. The importance of running and reading. So when we ask the question, who made a decision why we should say 30,000 years and then count down to the year zero and then start counting up again, we discover that it was individuals who writes or who are in tune with the greater gods, meaning the planets and the solar system and the energies and the flux and the flows of energies of communication. Like right now, I'm speaking and someone in China literally can hear my words, even though I'm not there physically. So there's a communication, there's a frequency that is sent, like when your trees need to bloom or when the corpus flower need to bloom every 9 years. So I think if I am smart, I can spend some time learning how to get my mind connected to the mind of God, because the mind of God is having a clean body. Brother Michael some time ago spoke about I paraphrase it because we always distort what a person is sharing. So I cannot be a part of that distortion. He kind of mentioned that when you eat certain foods, there is a disconnect, a distortion with the flow. It's not exact, but um, so when you fast, like today will be going into my 9th year of fasting every week. And for some reason, something inspired me to start eating raw fruits and vegetables in the same year of my 50th Jubilee. So one thing builds up to another, purifying yourself to a certain state to receive certain things. So we're building, because I ask people again, where are you going? When something inspires your people come with some ideas, well, where are they planning to go? What do they see? Myself, I want to, if there is a God, if there's a Father, when I leave my physical body, I want to present myself to the highest esteem. And subconsciously, we know what the highest esteem is, because if individuals walk into a room full of religious folks or powerful people around the world, and they tell the people who are powerful with knowledge of books, says, look, I fast. Something on the inside of them going to let them know that is greater than the one who can read 1,000 books but continue to eat any old thing. And then they'll get upset spiritually, because fasting is a higher form, subconsciously, a person who just walk around and eats anything at any time of the day. Or when a person says, I went to the gym and worked out today, something on the inside of people who read millions of books who don't work out, they sitting around there just lazy. Something on the inside angers them because they know the one who went to the gym is better than them. Literally is better than them. Why? Because when this scientists get to a certain age, the first thing they're going to do is start eating right, fasting right, because they want to preserve their life, because they want to live longer to get their questions answered. So there are things that is better, period. So when we look at a car, because people are materialistic, let's use a car for example. You saved, you worked hard, you got your Maybach. The Maybach is beautiful. You can talk to it. It's a computer. Says my Maybach or my Mercedes. It says, so when you in the car, it says my Mercedes. The voice came, how may I help you? My Mercedes, stop the massage, stop the cheer massaging me. And my Mercedes says, yes, I will stop your cheer from massaging you. It's literally to that point. You can do the 2023 Mercedes Maybach. It's all these things. You say, my Mercedes, make the ambient light turn red. My Mercedes says, yes, I will make the ambient light turn red. Then it goes, ooh, and the light turn red. This is literally the world we living in. My Mercedes make my side of the vent 82 degrees and make the passenger temperature 42 degrees. My Mercedes will say her words and then actually do it. Voice command. So there are things that are better, period. And there's some reason if I get into a 1982 Mercedes in comparison to the 2023 Mercedes S Class, there's no comparison to the experience. When you ride into the 1982 Mercedes S Class, you will feel bumps. In the 2023 S Class, on the same earth, might be in the same neighborhood, maybe on the same day, Wednesday, that 2023 Mercedes is a smooth ride. You can't feel the bumps because it will see the bump or the hole in the ground before the vehicle get there and then adjust the um the it will adjust the little thing that bumps around the hydraulic. It will adjust something, you know what I mean. And then when it finally reached that hole, it already know what it needs to do to keep the car at the same level, and so you don't feel the bump. It's a smooth ride. So one thing builds from another. So time, the knowledge of time is important, and you document that time because the people who invented the car already knew potholes existed. But when the invention came, it forced them to create something to protect or perform better. So one thing will lead to another. So the car invented the wheel. The wheel helped the airplane fly, get off the ground at a certain time. So all of these things are building blocks for something that will benefit the person in future dates. So being ignorant is a sin, missing the mark. So time is always a warning. It's always a warning. I don't want to use the word warning. It's always something that will let you know. Like even before your car and stuff start breaking down, it's always something. So I want us to think about this. If we are going to be in the assembly of the gods, now I can't speak for everybody, I speak for myself, because I don't think that you can come to the gods any old way. Because even certain books says Satan trying to come and there waits a flame of fire. So I'm gonna just mention it for maybe future day because I don't know if people have done their own work to be accepted. Because you can receive certain knowledge and try it and you'll get killed because you didn't do the work. And you know how lazy we are. We just want the next fix, even though we didn't have the right to earn what knowledge is being shared. So we take it, we steal it, and then run somewhere else and they get destroyed because we stole it. Juanita Byam gave this example. She said, be careful using people's speaking in tongues. Because according to Christians, they say speaking in tongues, you cast out demons. So she was warning them. She says, because if you listen to an elder speaking in tongues and that elder been fighting these demons for 50 years and you've been fighting it for 20 years and you use those words, you may summon those demons with that level of power and you will be destroyed because you didn't get that girth. Like, just go on YouTube and watch people bench press weights they can't handle. They have the weight choking them. They are literally dying, murdered because they was wanting to bench press something they didn't earn the strength to do. And that's what we do. You know, we hear something that sounds good and then we steal and then we get destroyed by it. So, and that's why you can't be a president. You know, it's many things that's there to protect us when we lack the knowledge. Even when we look at the movie Aladdin, I think they were trying to get the lamp. You rub the lamp and the genie come out, but it was this great sphinx looking thing. It came from the sand and asked these questions, and you had to answer these questions before you could enter. And then when you enter, it closed. And then in this room is full of gold, jewels, and pearls and diamonds. But then you had to walk through it. No, it was a time. So the mouth stayed open. So you walked in, there were Jews. So you can go in and get your gold because you answered the question, the riddle. You had to answer the riddle. So you go in, you can get the gold, and you can leave out. You just get up out of there because that's all you wanted. You wanted some gold because that's just, it's minor. People are money. They don't have wisdom. So you can go in and get the gold and rubies and pearls and leave out. But they talk about the sin of greed when you're greedy. So the person was driven enough to get the knowledge to find the location of this great sphinx or this great sand giant to open his mouth. Then it gained enough knowledge to answer the riddle. But the drive, that's why corporations fall, because they go beyond their measure. So even though in the beginning, the one only only needed to just get some money to save his house or save his family. But when the one went into the mouth, it saw an abundance of money. But then it looked up and it saw something way up that it didn't remember. It didn't even know it existed. So the genie's lamp is way up somewhere. I'm gonna move my head so again. It's way up, but it's something sparkled. So when the great mouth opened, it walked in and saw the glitter. So the glitter, nature is something else. The glitter, the lights from the outside start, hitting on the gold around, and the gold around light eventually went to the lamp and it glittered. So when he walked in, even though his original purpose was just to get the gold, but the drive of greed is a test. This is always a test. So he look up, he sees something sparkle. So he forgets the whole reason why he was there to get the gold in the first place, to go walk deeper in to get that is sparkling in the back. So eventually those who continue that, what they do. So when he was walking through, he saw the gold and the pearls and the other things, but he also saw skeletons. He saw people dead in there. So the closer he got to that sparkle, he saw more skeletons. So it shocked him for a moment. But greed and that drive, you just can't stop. Got to keep going. He went and continued up. So it got more difficult for him as he climbed to get closer to that sparkle that something made him see out of the corner of his eyes when he was at the front of the mouth, when he could have just walked out. So even though it's more challenging, he said, nah, I got to get it because the mouth is still open. The bones are around because you see more bones as the higher he gets, But then he said, oh, man, he see the object. It's just sitting there by itself. So then eventually he gets to it. And then as soon as he touched it, the mouth closed. And then everything around him it's a volcano, start to dissolve everything around him. Therefore, he dies like the other. So, brothers and sisters, I just think time is our freedom. Knowing the time. Because even look at those who live where they used to have floods. The people who didn't know the season of floods died, they perished. No matter if they prayed to that present God, no matter if they fasted, no matter what they did, whatever, they have no concern. It was a greater force. The rains came and they drowned with their God and their knowledge. And that's why we spent a tremendous amount of money trying to create something to send something to an asteroid that may hit the earth, which way may wipe us out. So when you look at this, brothers and sisters, your true protection is to have that knowledge of something that will come. Like, for example, eating right, fasting right, having a positive mind, having a holistic way of life to prevent illnesses. We already have that science. It's not that difficult. The only difficulty is we're addicted to sugars. Therefore, we just got to eat the stuff. I mean, we're not, so we also even have people in Africa that eat raw meat and they live to a certain age. And you see their teeth are, a certain way. So when you look at this, brothers and sisters, time and not being in alignment to time will only prove your demise or your success. Because we live in a system that is supported by something that is greater. And being obedient to the knowledge of it, because you can be an atheist. If you have the knowledge, you will not suffer. Because if you take the Bible and certain scriptures and remove the name God and all this stuff and put time or put natural causes at that season, like when the leaves fall when it's winter, or you know, like we saw recently that it was 90 degrees, but the leaves will still fall. So being in time to sum this thing up is important. But the question is, to myself personally, I'm just speaking out loud, what is the beginning point? Because I know mathematics can get you to a location, period. But then people start killing themselves when they get a certain level of math. And reading history will get you some level of these seasons. So I think mathematics and history is one of the most important, actually the only two true levels of knowledge of how to be a living witness, meaning that being a God on earth. If you master higher levels of mathematics and study history intensely, therefore you become a God in existence. So I'll say this. I'm thinking about this. So if we ate one meal a week, even if we have to eat dead animals, ate one meal a week or one meal every other day, fasted, prayed, meaning that we get rest, we can use prayer. Let's look at this. Apotheosis. I'm sharing this. I'm thinking, speaking out loud. Let's think about this. Because if you read a book at the age of 10, and if you read that same book, even in the same room at the age of 40, you will know different things compared to when you was 10 years old. So age is important. Time is important. We got that down pat. Living longer is important. Living to 40 years is as important to living to 80 years because you have greater wisdom the longer you live. And so seeing, because God in the Bible cut our years off, meaning that we are disconnected from greater knowledge or greater wisdom or greater insight. So doing the things to live longer is important. So hold on. Study, because when you're a baby, you want to touch and feel things. Study mathematics and study history is the highest levels of knowledge, because that would get you into the future and the past. And then living long enough will give you a higher insight and a greater wisdom. Because even when you do math, everybody who done mathematics in college, because I went my highest little class with calculus, you may not know the answer to the math problem, but if you go to sleep, take a nap, and wake up, for some reason, you'll get the answer. So applying something over and over and over was opposite of insanity if you continue to practice even lifting weights. So some things are not insane. You will only see an improvement, or you'll see a greater understanding to a thing that you're looking for. So eating right, eating less, allowing your body to rest more, because they are called Methuselah mice. They live longer because they start eating one meal a day. So that's scientific, eating less, because allow your body, let's use practical, allow your body to eliminate. Remember the stuff I was talking about. Only thing that your body needs to do is to have the ability to eliminate, no matter if it's animals or whatever. So elimination is important when it comes to longevity on some aspect. So studying history and mathematics and allow yourself to live to get more higher insight. Eating right, denying yourself, because when you deny yourself, it gives you the will, a spiritual will. It gives you a strength. Then when you don't deny yourself. So aging, fasting, being a peaceful mind, having a peaceful mind, a peaceful environment, exercising gently or not, and living long enough will give you the ability to be in the mind of God, despite, I think, your religion or what you profess as a God. Because 1,000 years from now, we won't be saying Jesus and all these things, and it was not even exist. The Bible, all this stuff will not even exist, just like they didn't exist before. But the principles are important. So we will say Jesus, we will say Allah, we will say these things to respect the time that we live in. So, our brother Michael, I really think is very important for those who truly love God. Now, we know that doing for others is mainly for slaves. I've discovered that that concept was given to the unlearned masses because nothing in nature does it for the most part. Because when a lion is full, it will eat the animal. Compared to when it's full, it will play with it. Only do for those when you have an abundance. Because even the Bible, when Moses, uh, when he interpreted Pharaoh's dreams, they stored enough grain to protect them from the seasons. So that's important, brother. That is important to have the knowledge, or at least have something to protect yourself to the point. It is okay to sacrifice. That's why I call it a sacrifice. But it's not how it was given in the practical sense, because the rich are still here and the poor are still here. No matter how much they pray. You got people spending billions while we got to pray for $1,000. You know what I mean? It's not logical. So we deserve a little mercy because we're ignorant. So we suffer from our ignorance, even me specifically. So, brother, I just really see this time thing as something that I'm gonna go more into because I'm getting closer to my birth date. And that's why they say it's the 50th Jubilee, the 70th Jubilee. These Jubilees mean something. So when you look at the Torah, I think every 50 years, everything's supposed to be forgiven. These things mean something, you know. The time of these things means something. I don't know what it is, but it means something. So I will conclude on that part, brother. I think living a holistic life, always having a certain positive mind, eating less substance, physical substance, sleeping, resting, exercising, and studying mathematics and studying world history to see certain patterns. Blessings.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, says, "To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up, a time to weep, and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get, and a time to lose, a time to keep, a time to cast away, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time to keep silent, a time to speak, a time to love, and a time to hate, a time of war, and a time of peace. What profit hath he that worketh in that wherein he laboureth? I have seen the travail which God hath given to the sons of men to be exercised in it. He hath made everything beautiful in his time. Also, he hath set the world in their heart, so that no man can find out the work that God maketh from the beginning to the end. Might I add on these concepts that have proven themselves evident? Sequence is pattern. To know the pattern is to know the sequence. To know both of these things is to know how to prepare for the future, which has happened in the past, which is simultaneously in the now. Every stop sign, every yield signal, every billboard, every incantation, every word, every rule, every law, every precedent has come from some extreme or another as a prophet to make sure that no other extremes like such shall occur. All prototypes are subject to 100% extremes of every spectrum to prove for its safety before the sending of this product to the masses. And some of those extremes are kept in silence so as to control the people. If you know these things and have tested the extremes within your own temple, then you will have no choice but to achieve balance. Fasting is thought of as an extreme to some. It is in stream to us, for life is but the stream. This blood that courses through our veins with the drive that goes at 60,000 miles every 42 seconds. I thank God for the revelations that are brought here today in regards to time, in regards to the blood that courses through our veins, in regards to the bones. For this is the depiction in my mind of making bricks without straw. It is made by the sacrifice of time, the time it takes to study, the time it takes to accumulate this knowledge, the time it takes to articulate and even wean our excitement to keep composure for the revelations that we find here, despite our fervor for said knowledge and how excited it makes us to share in these builds together. I thank God. There are some that will see that these endeavors are boring endeavors, that these are not exciting. We respect their opinion. I watched a video this morning of a young gentleman aged 25 years of age, Gregorian, should I say, of which had a wisdom that I believe is very old. And he gave 6 instances while he chose a boring life. Boring being the social constructs, groupthink against things that are simplistic and intellectual and with drive and meaning versus the fantastic, exciting fantasy that is many things that are brought as distractions, disruptions, even to the temple. And one of the things that was said, he referenced Steve Jobs. Upon the invention of the original smartphone, the very first iPhone, it is written that Steve Jobs stood in front of a crowd of thousands of people and he said to the people, and this is not paraphrasing, "Thou shalt not be bored again." And he began to laugh. The laughter did not come from his fervor for the product. His laughter came from the ignorance that he was looking upon all of these faces who cannot wait to be distracted from the drive that is the true purpose. For they'll have an app for everything. For they'll never have to seek further than reaching out for their phone instead of a book to read. That they will be able to order groceries rather than to trek a journey to find fruit and vegetable that groweth in the ground therein that is edible in season. It has brought us such fantasy as an endless summer of food out of season and an almost infinite ignorance of the world around us because we choose not to seek it ourselves. But those who do seek it, those who do find these revelations to be our excitement, dare I say it, the shared excitement of these revelations with someone who is given the same reference to a person's time that is not wasted. This is the reward. For all my life, the only thing I have ever asked for was a brotherhood, and I have achieved it. I thank God. For the rest of the world who choose someone else's time as a means to waste their own, for those who choose not to pay attention as a fare and a ticket to ride the journey, though it will not be audible here or not even visible, I do feel for those. But one thing that I will not do is complain, for the candle cannot complain. For the candle cannot complain against the darkness and the harshness. It instead emits itself, then admits to itself that it is everything that it needed. It is the light, and we are that light. We will not blow this candle out from us, but that would be a grand disservice of the time that we have put forth into being the light. Instead, we will bring this in so that every hug, every handshake, every turning of the pages of the books where we choose to read and build upon will feel that essence. The three wise men gave of certain gifts to what we consider now to be the savior of this particular time: frankincense, gold, and myrrh for birth, for life and for death, but it was all given at the same time. As a respective persons for each other's time, I am eternally grateful for the now that we have shared right now. And so we take this in and we show the world beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are not harmed. Peace and many multitudes of blessings be unto all who have witnessed this build until we meet again. Blessings.